In the latest chapter of our weekly brief but spectacular series, we delve into the life of Alda, an award-winning actor, writer, director, and now podcaster. Alda is undoubtedly best known for his iconic role as Hawkeye Pierce on the beloved TV series MASH, a show that seamlessly blended humor and drama. But behind the laughter and poignant moments, a less-than-rosy dynamic brewed on set, a side of Alda that the public rarely saw. Alda, the actor who brought the quick-witted, compassionate, and often irreverent character of Hawkeye to life, reveals in a candid moment how much he truly disliked certain aspects of the show and his own experiences while filming. Alda wasn't the perfect, charming star that viewers might have imagined. In fact, MASH wasn't always the harmonious, well-oiled machine that the world came to know and love. There were moments when the show's humor faltered, and much of this can be attributed to tensions behind the scenes. The friction first became apparent during the filming of the show's second season, a period that saw a clash of creative minds between Alda and Jackie Cooper, the director. Alda, known for his improvisational talents and his desire to explore and stretch his character, felt restricted by Cooper's traditional approach to directing. Alda wanted more freedom, a chance to add his own unique spin on Hawkeye's character, but Cooper had a very different vision, one that prioritized sticking to the script and adhering to a more structured, traditional method of filmmaking. This difference in style ignited a bit of drama on set. Alda, who was deeply passionate about the show's quality and wanted to contribute more creatively, grew frustrated by what he perceived as Cooper's lack of enthusiasm and his more rigid, controlling direction. From Alda's perspective, Cooper wasn't putting in the same level of passion that he was, which led to tension between the two. For Cooper, the seasoned director, Alda's insistence on pushing boundaries and challenging his authority proved to be challenging. To Cooper, Alda's strong-willed nature likely came off as difficult to manage, creating a delicate dynamic where Alda's desire for creative freedom collided with Cooper's need for control. The clash of personalities between the two men, one driven by a passion for innovation and the other by a desire for structure, is a tale that many behind-the-scenes stories in Hollywood share. It's the kind of tension that can lead to conflict, but it's also the kind that can result in some of the most memorable performances and moments in television history. Alda was determined to make MASH more than just another sitcom. He envisioned a more collaborative and creative environment, one where the actors had room to breathe and shape their characters, but Cooper's old-school methods didn't mesh well with Alda's aspirations. At the same time, Cooper, who had decades of experience in the industry, likely saw Alda's push for autonomy as a threat to his authority, something he wasn't willing to relinquish. Ultimately, this behind-the-scenes drama was a reflection of the bigger challenge that Alda faced on set, balancing his creative vision with the reality of a production that required more traditional leadership. It wasn't just a clash between Alda and Cooper, it was the intersection of two distinct approaches to art, one born out of years of experience and the other fueled by youthful energy and ambition. In the end, despite their differences, Alda and Cooper contributed to the same vision, which allowed MASH to become one of the most critically acclaimed television shows of all time. The humor may have dimmed in some episodes, but the heart of the show never faltered. And perhaps that's the lesson here. Sometimes the most fascinating stories happen off-screen, where creativity, tension, and differing visions collide to create something truly unforgettable. The tensions between Alda and Jackie Cooper on MASH weren't just a matter of opposing creative visions, they were indicative of the complex dynamics that shaped the show both on and off-screen. But before we dive deeper into their conflict, let's take a step back and understand what made MASH a groundbreaking series and why the behind-the-scenes struggles were so impactful. MASH, a series that aired from 1972 to 1983, was much more than just a comedy. Set during the Korean War, the show followed the lives of the doctors and nurses working at a mobile army surgical hospital, MASH, a setting that gave the show its name. With its deft mix of humor and drama, MASH quickly became a cultural phenomenon, drawing viewers in with its sharp wit and deeply emotional moments. At the heart of the show was the character of Hawkeye Pierce, played by Alda. Hawkeye was the quintessential wisecracking surgeon, always ready with a joke even in the most dire situations. His witty and sarcastic remarks were a key part of what made MASH so appealing. Alongside him was his best friend, Trapper John McIntyre, portrayed by Wayne Rogers, who shared in Hawkeye's pranks and mischief. But MASH wasn't just about Hawkeye and Trapper. The show boasted a rich ensemble cast of unforgettable characters, each bringing their own quirks and charm to the screen. Loretta Swit's portrayal of the stern but caring head nurse, Margaret Houlihan, added depth to the show, while Jamie Farr's performance as the flamboyant Corporal Maxwell Klinger brought levity, with Klinger's constant attempts to get discharged by dressing in women's clothing. Every character, from the serious to the silly, added something unique to the mix. This blend of humor, heart, and thought-provoking drama is what made MASH so special. One moment, you'd be laughing at Hawkeye's antics, and the next, you'd find yourself moved by the emotional toll of war. The show wasn't afraid to tackle difficult subjects, such as the horrors of war, the sacrifices made by soldiers, and the emotional cost of serving in the military. This unapologetically raw portrayal of war, mixed with the levity of the characters' coping mechanisms, struck a chord with audiences, making MASH one of the most beloved TV shows of all time. And here's an interesting twist you might not know. McLean Stevenson, who played the bumbling but lovable Colonel Henry Blake, originally wanted to play Hawkeye. Imagine that. A different actor, a different vibe for the character. Stevenson's desire to portray Hawkeye shows just how much actors, like anyone else, have roles they feel deeply connected to, even if fate has other plans. If Stevenson had played Hawkeye, would the show have had the same impact? It's hard to say, but it's clear that Alda's portrayal of Hawkeye became an iconic part of TV history. Another fascinating aspect of MASH was that several of the cast members had real-life military experience, which added an authentic layer to their performances. Jamie Farr, who portrayed the quirky Corporal Klinger, served in the U.S. Army for 2 years and was stationed in Japan and Korea after the Korean War ended. His time in the military gave him a personal understanding of the experiences of soldiers, which undoubtedly informed his portrayal of Klinger. And it wasn't just Farr. Alda himself had served in the Army Reserves, giving him a unique perspective on the challenges and struggles his character would face in a war setting. With a mix of real-life experiences and fictional storytelling, MASH Star set the bar for how television could balance humor with the harsh realities of life. But not everything was smooth sailing behind the scenes. The tension between Alda and Jackie Cooper was just one example of the underlying struggles that sometimes emerge when passionate people with different visions come together to create something groundbreaking. But it's precisely those tensions, those moments of clashing creativity, that ultimately helped shape MASH into the unforgettable series it became. Alda's military background didn't just influence his portrayal of Hawkeye Pierce, it enriched it, adding an extra layer of authenticity that viewers may not have immediately recognized. Both Alda and Jamie Farr, who played the lovable Corporal Klinger, had real-world military experiences that they drew upon to bring their characters to life. Farr, who served in the U.S. Army, was stationed in Japan and Korea after the Korean War. While he wasn't involved in direct combat, his time in the military likely gave him unique insight into the experiences of soldiers, which helped shape his portrayal of Klinger's eccentric and sometimes outrageous attempts to get discharged. Similarly, Alda's service in the Army Reserves, though not widely discussed, gave him a personal understanding of military life. Although specifics about his service aren't common knowledge, the experience must have shaped his ability to bring Hawkeye's witty and compassionate nature to life, lending the character a sense of realism and depth that might not have been possible without it. The authenticity Alda brought to the role is akin to watching a film about space exploration made by someone who actually worked at NASA. Suddenly, everything feels that much more grounded and believable. But while Alda's portrayal of Hawkeye was lauded, not all of his relationships on set were as harmonious as his character's witty banter. MASH Asterisk was a show where rivalries and friendships often collided in the most fascinating ways. For instance, many believed that Alda's true rival on the show wasn't just Jackie Cooper, the director, but rather Mike Farrell, who played B.J. Honeycutt. The two shared a competitive energy that extended beyond the scripted pranks and jokes of their characters. Off-screen, they frequently tried to outdo one another in terms of who could deliver the best quip or pull off the funniest prank. In Alda's memoir, Never Have Your Dog Stuffed and Other Things I've Learned, he admits that he and Mike often engaged in silly competitions, like trying to learn how to stand on their hands first. Their lighthearted rivalry only enhanced the camaraderie on set, making for a more enjoyable working environment. Yet, it wasn't all fun and games. Alda also recounted in his memoir how, despite their friendship, Farrell would often playfully try to trip him during scenes, adding a layer of physical competition to their relationship. But things weren't always so playful. In one particular episode, Farrell felt strongly that his character, B.J. Honeycutt, was acting out of character, leading to a tense disagreement between the two actors. Their differing views on how the scene should be portrayed were a reminder that, despite their personal chemistry, each actor was deeply invested in their character's authenticity. This type of conflict is something any actor can relate to. Every artist wants to make sure their character is represented in the truest way possible, and sometimes that leads to creative differences. Beyond the personal dynamics of Alda and Farrell, MASH was filled with untold stories about casting decisions and actors who turned down roles. These behind-the-scenes details shed light on the intricacies of creating a beloved show. For example, there were several actors who, for one reason or another, passed on joining the cast of MASH, a decision that would have shaped the show in entirely different ways. As with any long-running series, the combination of creative forces, including the choices made in casting, played a pivotal role in the final product. Every choice, every decision, whether it was a minor disagreement or a crucial casting change, ultimately contributed to the magic of MASH, a show that continues to resonate with audiences even decades after its final episode aired. Imagine a world where Robert Klein, the comedian known for his stand-up and television appearances, was part of the MASH family. Klein was offered the role of Trapper John McIntyre, the quick-witted, lovable sidekick to Alan Alda's Hawkeye. But, for reasons unknown, Klein passed on the opportunity, a decision that would ultimately change the trajectory of his career. Despite MASH going on to become one of the most iconic TV shows of all time, Klein never seemed to regret his choice. Instead, he went on to build an impressive career, appearing in over 100 movies and TV shows, proving that he had a path to success all his own. It's a testament to the unpredictable nature of show business. Sometimes the roles that seem like the one that got away turn out to be the ones that allow for greater artistic freedom and personal growth. Another curious casting decision involved Wayne Rogers, the actor behind Trapper John. What made Rogers' tenure on MASH unique was that he never signed a formal contract with the show. This unusual arrangement meant that Rogers was free to leave the set whenever he wished, without being tied down by legal obligations. It must have been a challenge for the MASH team to navigate the show's plot lines with one of the central characters coming and going at will. Still, it spoke to Rogers' confidence and belief that he could contribute to the show on his own terms, a kind of freedom that most actors could only dream of. Then there's the story of Jamie Farr's portrayal of Corporal Klinger, a character who became a fan favorite despite not initially being meant to be a regular on the show. Originally intended to appear in just one episode, Klinger was supposed to be written as a gay character. However, Farr's portrayal of Klinger's quirky, flamboyant personality was so beloved by audiences that the producers decided to keep him around for the long haul. What began as a one-off turned into a role that became integral to the show's charm, adding a distinct blend of humor and heart to MASH. As the show's narrative evolved, MASH also underwent a subtle but significant shift in its tone. Early on, the show was known for its laugh track, a staple of sitcoms at the time. But as the series grew in popularity and depth, the creators realized that a laugh track wasn't the best fit for the increasingly serious and dramatic content. The show began to explore more complex, weighty themes, such as the brutality of war and the emotional toll it took on the characters. MASH wanted to create a balance. While it was still funny, the laughter needed to be grounded in the reality of the characters' experiences. Initially, CBS, the network airing MASH, insisted on keeping the laugh track, as it was a standard in many shows of that era. But after some negotiation, the producers won a small but significant victory. They were allowed to film certain scenes without the laugh track, especially those in the operating room, where the gravity of the situation didn't lend itself to canned laughter. Slowly, over time, the presence of the laugh track became less noticeable, gradually fading as the show delved deeper into more serious territory. The shift reflected the maturation of MASH. It was no longer just a show about jokes and pranks in a war setting, but rather an exploration of the human condition under extreme circumstances. The humor, while still present, had a sharper, more poignant edge, blending seamlessly with the more dramatic aspects of the show. This evolving tone is part of what made MASH a timeless classic. It wasn't just about making people laugh, it was about making them think, feel, and reflect on the larger issues at play. As MASH moved forward, it became a show that tackled the complexities of war, friendship, and survival, often at the expense of the easy, light-hearted comedy that had characterized its early days. This was the magic of MASH. It wasn't just a comedy or a drama, it was both, and the perfect blend of the two made it one of the most beloved and influential shows in television history. The enduring legacy of MASH* is undeniable. From the very first episode, which aired on September 17, 1972, the show captivated audiences and set the stage for what would become a television institution. The pilot episode, nominated for 2 Emmy Awards, one for director Gene Reynolds and another for writer Larry Gelbart, was nothing short of groundbreaking. Even more impressive was the fact that Gelbart wrote the entire episode in just 3 days. That's like pulling an all-nighter to write a book report, but with a level of brilliance that helped to create a lasting cultural phenomenon. Despite being written in such a short time, the episode's emotional depth and sharp humor resonated with viewers, earning MASH its spot in television history. It set the tone for what would become a series celebrated not just for its humor, but for its profound exploration of the human condition amidst the chaos of war. The impact of the pilot was immediate. Critically acclaimed and loved by audiences, MASH was clearly something special from the start. But here's a twist that even the cast wasn't prepared for. Alda, who portrayed the beloved Hawkeye Pierce, was the only one who knew that Colonel Henry Blake was going to be killed off. Imagine being part of such a monumental show and suddenly discovering that a key character was being written off, without any forewarning. The other actors only found out about the shocking plot twist just before filming the gut-wrenching scene where Colonel Blake meets his untimely end. It was a jarring moment for the cast, particularly because Blake had been a fan favorite. This shocking turn of events is just one example of the unexpected storytelling choices that helped MASH stand out. But the show wasn't just about surprising plot twists. It also attracted big-name stars and guest roles, giving fans even more reasons to tune in. Imagine watching a young Ron Howard, who would go on to become a television and movie icon, guest star on MASH during the early years of his career. Or how about the hilarious Leslie Nielsen, famous for his roles in Airplane and The Naked Gun, making a guest appearance. Even Patrick Swayze, the heartthrob of Dirty Dancing, made an appearance on the show, adding to its already star-studded roster. These celebrity cameos not only brought excitement to the series, but also helped maintain its momentum and attract an even wider audience. And here's a fun fact. Despite the Korean War lasting only about 3 years, MASH ran for an impressive 11 seasons, totaling 256 episodes. That's like watching your favorite movie over and over again, but with fresh stories and new emotional beats each time. The show's ability to evolve and stay relevant over such a long period speaks to its powerful storytelling and universal themes. Fans remained glued to their screens for over a decade, witnessing the evolution of beloved characters, as well as the show's growth into a more serious exploration of war, loss, and the human spirit. Alda wasn't just a brilliant actor on the show. He was a creative powerhouse behind the scenes as well. Alda directed 31 episodes and co-wrote 13, further solidifying his role as the creative driving force of MASH. His behind-the-scenes work helped shape the show into what it became, a rare blend of humor and tragedy that not only entertained but also made viewers think critically about the nature of war. One of the most endearing symbols of the show was Radar's teddy bear, which accompanied his character in many scenes, serving as a comforting companion in times of distress. After the show wrapped, fans were left wondering about the fate of Radar's beloved bear. For years, it was thought to be lost, an artifact from MASH's past. But in a surprising twist, the bear resurfaced decades later at an auction. And who else but Gary Berghoff, the actor who portrayed Radar, would be the one to purchase it? For him, it must have been a deeply emotional moment to reunite with a cherished part of his character's story. As the show neared its final episodes, MASH continued to surprise audiences and its cast, with moments that still stand out in television history. The show's unique combination of humor, drama, and shocking twists helped it maintain its spot as one of the greatest shows of all time, proving that its legacy would endure long after the final curtain fell. After the MASH series concluded, the cast's connection to the show didn't fade away. In fact, there was one remarkable discovery that would forever encapsulate the bond they shared. While filming wrapped up, the characters on the show buried a time capsule on set, filled with mementos and memories of their time together. This was meant to be a secret treasure for future generations to discover, a snapshot of MASH's unique history. Months later, after the filming had finished, a construction worker stumbled upon the buried capsule. It must have been a surreal moment for everyone involved, unearthing a physical piece of the show's legacy. It was like a long-lost secret, suddenly brought to light, reminding everyone of the cherished moments shared on the set of MASH. Among the most iconic faces on the show was Loretta Swit, who portrayed the fiery and fiercely independent Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan. She appeared in 245 out of 256 episodes of MASH, an impressive record that's akin to playing every game of a baseball season, save for a handful. Sweet's commitment to her character was unwavering, as she remained on the show for all 11 seasons, making her one of only 4 cast members to do so. Her deep connection to MASH was undeniable, and she quickly became a fan favorite, embodying the complex nature of her character with grace and intensity. While her role as Margaret was central, it's important to acknowledge that MASH wasn't just about the main characters. Some of the smaller roles were just as unforgettable, contributing layers of charm and depth to the series. In one particularly clever episode from 1977, the characters were even named after players from the California Angels baseball team. This fun Easter egg was a subtle reminder of the attention to detail and creativity that made MASH stand out. Every character, no matter how minor, was given thoughtful development, making the show feel incredibly real. But here's a juicy tidbit. One of the characters was actually named after a writer's ex-girlfriend. It's like a secret inside joke, a hidden tribute buried in the show's narrative. Though the identity of the ex-girlfriend remains a mystery, some have speculated that it was Patty Haven, giving rise to the fun speculation about whether it was an affectionate nod or a playful jab. Regardless of the backstory, it adds another layer of intrigue to the show's rich history. As MASH progressed, the actors became more involved in the creative process, contributing their ideas and opinions to the direction of the storylines. This sometimes led to playful, and occasionally tense, situations on set. One particularly memorable tactic employed by the creative team involved the actors wearing heavy winter clothing during scenes, despite the oppressive heat outside. This was likely a method of asserting authority, reminding the cast who was in charge, while also testing their endurance. The playful challenge of filming in discomfort didn't detract from the show's brilliance. If anything, it highlighted the dedication and passion that went into making MASH a success, no matter the circumstances. When the show finally ended, its cultural impact didn't simply fade. A number of spin-offs were created, including one based on the beloved character of Radar O'Reilly. This spin-off explored Radar's life after the war, showing him return home to face heartbreak and loss, eventually becoming a detective. While the series only aired for a brief period, it gave fans a glimpse into what could have been for Radar, who had become a fan favorite for his lovable and often naive nature. Though it wasn't a long-running success, the show added another layer to the MASH* legacy, offering a fresh perspective on the character's life after the war. This was just one of the many ways the impact of MASH continued to ripple through television long after the final episode. One of the most delightful surprises on MASH was the unexpected rise of Corporal Maxwell Klinger, played by Jamie Farr. Initially, Klinger was meant to be a one-time character, his quirky antics and cross-dressing escapades designed as a brief comic relief. But as often happens with MASH, the unexpected became a fan favorite. Klinger's bizarre efforts to get a discharge by pretending to be mentally unfit resonated with viewers, and his charm and humor quickly earned him a permanent spot on the show. It's a testament to how sometimes the most unassuming characters, born out of simple storylines, can capture the hearts of an audience and become iconic in the process. Another touching aspect of MASH was how the cast and their characters' families were intertwined, with some personal touches slipping into the scripts. Mike Farrell, who portrayed B.J. Honeycutt, named his character's daughter after his own real-life daughter, Erin. This sweet tribute bridged the gap between actor and character, making B.J.'s role as a loving father feel even more genuine and personal. Similarly, the photograph of Colonel Potter's wife, Mildred, displayed on his desk wasn't just a prop for the set. It was a picture of Harry Morgan's real-life wife. This small yet meaningful detail helped to deepen the authenticity and emotional connection of the character. These personal touches added depth to the show, creating a bond between the actors and the audience that transcended the script. However, not all of the behind-the-scenes relationships were without conflict. Jackie Cooper, who directed several episodes of MASH, later shared his thoughts in his autobiography, "Please Don't Shoot My Dog, Mister." In it, he expressed his frustration with Alda, who he felt was pushing liberal ideas into the show's scripts. Jackie wanted Allen to focus on the character of Hawkeye and leave the political messages out of the storylines, feeling that Alda was overstepping by inserting his own beliefs into the show. The tension between the two grew during the first two seasons when Jackie directed. with the two barely speaking and maintaining a strained working relationship. Despite their differences, both men's contributions were integral to the show's success. Despite the behind-the-scenes drama, MASH continued to thrive, and when it came time to say goodbye, the final episode became a cultural phenomenon. A staggering number of viewers tuned in, making it one of the most watched television events in history. However, there's a lesser-known detail about the series finale. MASH's last episode wasn't actually the final one filmed. The episode titled As Time Goes By was filmed after the official finale, adding a unique footnote to the show's long history. It's an interesting tidbit that deepens the complexity of the show's closing chapter. Even after the cameras stopped rolling, the bonds formed on set remained strong. Loretta Swit, who portrayed Major Margaret Houlihan, remained especially close with her co-stars, particularly Harry Morgan. Their friendships, cultivated during the production of MASH, endured long after the series concluded, offering a heartwarming reminder that the magic of the show wasn't just in the scripts, it was in the genuine relationships between the actors themselves. Their connection to one another off-screen is a testament to the lasting impact MASH had, both on the audience and on those who brought it to life.